There was a Harris official at the dinner that said, we ran a flawless campaign, and flawless in quotes. And I was sitting next to a reporter, our friend Brittany Johnson, and I was like, that's your headline. That's an insane statement. Imagine losing and saying it was flawless. That's insane. Will the Dems learn? I don't know.
We ran a flawless campaign, except for not having the candidate go on the number one interview possibility.
Except for not outperforming.
Except for
our
spending
$1.4
billion and getting our clocks cleaned. I mean, at that point, it's like, why do you have operatives at all?
What's the point? I don't get it.
If you're going to lose big. Oh my gosh. You know what this reminds me of? That's so funny. So I was in the middle of my career, manager. And then my boss, who is the CEO of this company, gave me a book. It reminds me of this. It's so funny. I think it was written by a political operative, but it's called Dodging the Bullet. And then it's about like how to avoid taking responsibility for any professional failure.
Your boss handed you this?
Yeah, handed me this because what was funny is that we were a software company in a healthcare context, and he was like, "Hey, there might be some point at which there's some problem in the hospital setting, and then people might want to blame our product.
Can't be us,
but it can't be us. So just like look at this book and da 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 da." And I was reading this book, and this book it was essentially. If you were an upright human, you'd be like, whoa, this is a little bit messed up. This is like how to, essentially pass the buck, in any way you can. But that's what that statement reminded me of. And I think it was from a political operative. And I have to say that that quote that you relayed, had me post something on X that said, the culture of the consultant class is an underrated reason the Democrats lost.
Very much. It might be one of the biggest ones. And that I'll say this. So we all got to go around and everybody got a couple questions. Dean, the question we all got was, why is your candidate in the race? And by the way, everybody's answer besides Trump was basically a version of it's my turn, right? I said, what I said on this podcast, and I said it there, was that we thought that Trump's second term was both predictable and preventable. And that we went to all the usual suspects in the Democratic Party. Dean went to all of them and called them and tried to get them to run, and they either wouldn't take his call or told him to pound sand. And so we ran because we think we need to be the party, the Democrats need to be a party of democracy and have a primary, and that Joe was going to lose. And so the Republicans there were nodding, and they got it. But I tell you, there were reporters there and Democratic operatives that looked at me like I had 6 heads. They're looking at me like this interesting, this somehow I felt in the beginning of the Yang campaign, the same vibe I got. And I kind of walked away. I was like, I don't think they're going to learn anytime soon.
Probably not.
Anyway, that was my takeaway from this thing.
Certainly that crew. I think that's what happens in certain journalistic circles, in certain professional political circles. It's like, in order for my job to continue and to make sense, it must mean that all of this weird inside baseball shit's super important. And in that world, it would be completely unfathomable for some backbencher, nobody congressman to somehow have the temerity to challenge the sitting president and head of the party and the person who controls the machine. And so, that they're kind of servants to the machine. And then if you try and hit them with logic or patriotism or service or common sense, it all just kind of flies right by them.
Yeah. We were talking about my experience at UBS too when I was on Wall Street, is that, you have indifference, you have bureaucracy, you have incentives to do all these things, right? But what happens is when it's a big company, people disagree, or there's, that's not the process, whatever it is, the things that delay progress. But at the end of the day, you're just shrug. It's UBS. It's not me. My name's on the back. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that happens in DC all the time, it would a big company. But the problem is that the consequence of this is not just UBS has is a little more inefficient or a worse quarter or more bureaucratic, right? The problem is our livelihoods, our country, right? The bureaucracy versus the stakes are off, right?
Yeah, very much so.
You know what I mean?